Hi, so this week I'm going to be answering a lot of the questions that I get in my messages. And it's from people saying, my child has delays, or my child is showing signs of obsession, my child doesn't want to eat or sleep, and I'm worried that they may be on the spectrum. How can I get my child screened for autism? It's a minefield, and I wish that I'd heard the advice that I'm about to give you now before we started on this journey, because I'll be honest, some of the stuff that happened on this process made me want to literally end it all. And as a recovering addict, I thought about using in this process because it was such a nightmare. And I don't want to worry you, because the nightmare stuff, I'm hopefully going to talk about why you don't have to worry about it so much in this video. That's the point of this video, is there's certain things that really threw me way into depression throughout this process that I wish I'd known not to worry about. And that's why I wanted to make this video. There's things that you don't have to necessarily listen to in this process of autism screening. And you don't have to panic. I want you to know that. And so that's why I'm making this video. Let's get into it. Hi guys, thanks for coming back to my channel. I would love it if you would consider subscribing if you like what I'm doing here. And apparently it really helps my channel if you drop a little like that on the video down there. Just click down there, a little like. Little like, why not? Why not do a little like? Come on, do a little like. So this week, I want to talk about a question that I get an overwhelming amount of in my inbox is, how can I get my child screened for autism? What happens when my child is diagnosed with autism? What do I have to expect? What are the pitfalls? And what has been your experience? And I get asked it so much that I thought it'd be easier just to make a video about it. So the first part of the question is, how do I get my kid screened for autism? That was a fight. That was a real fight for me. What tends to happen is you will go to a pediatrician and it'll become clear that your kid perhaps is being delayed with certain things. They have certain milestones like pointing, waving, speech. And if the kid is falling back and getting a bit delayed on those sort of milestones, there'll be a little warning sign for autism. And that's scary. That was really scary. When they told me that they wanted to get Alfie screened for autism, just the word was so scary to me. I kind of shut down and I didn't want to take it in, and I was like, I'm not going to even entertain this. And they said, so we'd like you to go and speak to these people called the regional centre. And I think regional centres exist in most states. And they gave me this leaflet, and it had a picture of like a family on the front. And I opened it, and the first thing I saw was the word disability. And when I saw that, I screwed the leaflet up, I ripped it up and I threw it on the floor. I was so floored and so just unbelievably scared when I saw that word. I didn't want to take it in. I was like, my brain shut it down. It wouldn't allow me to read the leaflet. I threw it away. And then as the weeks went on, Alfie started to regress and he started to lose words that he had previously been saying. And I got the wake up call that I have to pick that leaflet up again and go through my fear. So, I went back to the pediatrician, got another leaflet to the regional centre and took a deep breath and called the number. They said, we're going to have 3 different assessments done on Alfie. And they didn't say they were going to say if he was autistic or not, but I assumed that was what was going to happen. I thought that 3 therapies is going to be what it takes, and then they would say he's autistic or he isn't. The first one was child development, then there was speech, and then there was OT, occupational therapy. So this first one was speech. It was over Zoom, and Alfie was in a real bad place at that time. He was in his regression. He just looked scared. It was awful, an awful time. And they were trying to assess him on Zoom. So they were trying to put a camera in his face to get him to say words. And it was just an absolute nightmare of a session. And of course he did really badly because he was suffering from, losing skills he had, and this woman on Zoom was in his face trying to get him to do stuff. He didn't know what was going on. It was just a nightmare. And at the end of it, she said, we were like, so is he autistic? And she's like, I can't tell you that. And I was like, that's weird. Like, I thought that was the whole point of these assessments, is that you're going to tell us. And she said, but in my opinion, he's spoilt, and he's manipulative and strong-willed, and that's why he's not talking. So that wasn't very helpful and not very nice to hear. Then we move on to child development, and that was much more of a phone call with us, with his child development lady, who's actually been amazing. And she was really loving and really kind, and she still works with us now. And she was a real rock in this process, because she was like, she had good pointers for us, and she was like, don't worry about this, worry about this. And she really guided us into what to expect. So that was a good session, and she basically said, I'm going to come and see Alfie every week, 3 times a week, and we're going to play, and I'm going to develop his skills. So we were like, is he autistic? And she said, I can't tell you. So at this point I was like, so we're not gonna find out if he's autistic from these? I thought that was the whole point. Then it was back to the horrible Zoom for the OT assessment. And that woman was just like a horrible teacher. She was horrible. She was just like the teachers at school that I didn't like, very strict. And we had a camera in his face. The poor guy has never been on Zoom before, and all of a sudden there's these people telling him, do this, stack this block, draw this with a crayon. She said he was one of the worst cases she'd seen, which she was wrong, actually. Now I can look back on it, but that was so scary to hear. It was just horrendous to hear that about Alfie. It's like the worst case. She put his OT skills at 5 months old when he was 2.5. I don't know what that woman was on. Still to this day, she was insane, because he goes to OT now and his OT's amazing. And she's like, I don't have any concerns about him with OT is motor skills. So they play, and his OT now was like, I don't have any concerns with him with motor skills. The only concern she has with him is with social development and emotional development, because he struggles with emotions. So that woman almost completely derailed me. I mean, I'm in recovery from addiction, as I talk about. I felt suicidal after that call. I don't mind telling you. And I thought about using, which would have been the worst thing I could have done for that boy. But that was such a gut punch to hear that he was one of the worst cases, that my mind was like, it's all over. This little boy who I love so much. So, and even after that, so is he autistic? I can't tell you. So they went through all this, and the reason that they do it is so they get access to, after these assessments, Alfie got access to speech therapy, OT, occupational therapy, and child development, because he'd done these tests. But I thought that they were all going to say if he was autistic or not, and they didn't. All I know is that he was super delayed in speech. They said he had a 15-month level of speech, and he was, I think, like 26, 27 months at this point, maybe even 30 months. He was 27 months, so everyone basically was saying that he was a 15-month level. Everyone was saying, yeah, his speech seemed to be 15 months. The OT said he was 5 months. That woman was insane. So basically, first thing I want to tell you is that you may encounter some people who are completely terrible at their jobs, and they're going to make assessments like Alfie's at a 5-month OT level. So don't necessarily believe all of the assessments. That's one thing I really want to stress. They don't know, these assessors aren't going to know your kid like you know your kid, and your kid may test badly. Alfie tested so badly because he wasn't used to Zoom, and he's also very strong-willed. If you sit Alfie down in front of a puzzle and he doesn't want to do that puzzle, he will not do that puzzle no matter what you do. What I've realised now is that he's capable of it, but he just doesn't want to do it. So why the OT woman was putting him down as he's incapable, even without even entertaining the idea that maybe he is capable, but he just doesn't want to do it. So the first thing I want to say is don't take the assessments as gospel, please. You know your kid, and I knew in my heart Alfie wasn't a 5-month level for occupational, for motor skills. I knew that, but when she said that, I started to question it, and I wanted to end it all. I was suicidal from that. It was the worst day of my life, I think, that Saturday. I'll never forget it. So that's the first thing that's going to happen, is you're going to probably get referred by your pediatrician to the regional centre who deal with kids with developmental disabilities. And don't get freaked out by that word like I was. I was so upset by that word because I'd never used that word in conjunction with Alfie that I literally ripped the leaflet up and threw it in the bin. So that's the first part of what you can expect. You'll have assessments for speech, if they have a speech delay, for OT if they have motor delay, and for general child development if they're delayed in social and emotional. So that's the first thing you're going to come up against, and know that they are not going to tell you if your kid is autistic. They just don't. The sequence is that you get these people to assess your child so that you then get access to the therapy. So it's a good thing in a way, but the assessment process is stressful, and I had a bad time with it. I didn't like it because I felt like they were judging my boy badly, and I know him. Like, you know your kids, you know, even if they do badly in a test, and that's something I've learned for the future. If Alfie does badly in a test, it doesn't. I did terribly at tests, and so did Laura. So they don't give you the full picture. But the first thing you're going to come up against is these assessments, and it's their job to give the child access to help. So it's a positive thing, but please don't take the assessments seriously. Don't read the reports. It's my advice, because you know better. I say I knew better, and now Alfie's he's developed in a way that I'm not so worried about. He's a 5-month level at 27 months for OT. That was crazy. So now, with the benefit of hindsight, I can say that I didn't have to worry so much about that assessment because everything was fine with his motor skills. So I'm going to end this bit here because it's a lot to take in. So these are the assessments that you'll first get. My advice is don't panic. Please don't panic. Next time, I'm going to talk about the crazy stuff that happens after this. But I wanted to make a video because so many people are asking me, and I know it's a minefield. It's a minefield of assessments and information, and I want to give you guys my experience of what happened. And I think it might be helpful. So I love you guys. Please come back for part 2 when I'll talk about how you get the actual autism assessment. I love you guys. Thank you for watching.